Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to Kochi Mulesoft Meetup group. So, today we are just having an exciting topic. So, Mulesoft RP automations. So, that is what we are going to cover. And thank you for joining on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. I know a lot of engagements will be there for everybody, personal commitments. So, appreciate it. Thanks for joining. So, hopefully, we will have a good session today. So just to start with, so we have this safe harbor statement. So the speakers and host, we are organizing this meetup just in individual capacity only. So we are not representing our companies here. So just to make that clear. And the presentation is strictly for learning purpose only. So the organizer, presenter do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business requirements also. So you have to check that, especially, customer to customer, business to business, there is a difference, definitely, right? And this presentation is not meant for any promotional activities too. So that's just a safe harbor statement, right? And just to be touch basing the housekeeping part. So definitely a recording of this meetup will be uploaded and to our events page within 24 hours, and also it will be available in social medias. And questions can be submitted, asked at any time in the chat or questions. And we have an question and answers tab is also there, so you can ask there. And I would recommend make it more interactive so that we can have some you know very healthy discussions, and give us feedback at the end. Rate this meetup session by filling some feedback form at the end of the day, and we definitely will love feedbacks. So yeah. So it's about us, the organizers. So myself, I'm Sandeep Krishnan. Okay, we are here Kochi Mulesoft leaders, and I work as a technical instructor for Mulesoft, and so and also I play the role of an integration lead. So that's all about me. So we don't have Supriya today here, so she's not available for the day. She's not feeling well. So sorry for that. And Sumit, you can just introduce yourself and then we can go to
Yeah,
Siddharth.
sure. Thanks, Sandeep. Yeah, myself, Sumit Ahuja. I have total 7 years of experience now in IT in Mulesoft. I work as an integration architect in Wipro Private Limited. Okay, so just one thing, Sandeep, do we have any trivia available for today?
Yes, yes, we do have. We do have a
So,
question session.
can
Even
you?
the quiz is there at the end. Yes.
Yeah, so we have trivia available. Maybe kind of three questions like So please be attentive throughout the session so that in the end you can avail three training vouchers with the help of trivia. Three questions. So we will post the questions in the end and maybe with the options as well. So it's a good chance for winning the training vouchers and all. And please post your all the questions in Q and A section only so that we can easily track that and your questions won't be missed by any chance. I hope you will enjoy the session. It will be interactive as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Sumit. So I will just hand it over to now Sidamma. So she's going to be our speaker today. So she regarding Sidamma, she has got a lot of experience in integration space. She works for DevOps Devo team, and and she's located in Netherlands. And so probably I will hand it over to Sidamma. You so probably you can share the screen and take it from here. Okay, thanks, Sidamma.
Yeah, sure.
And thanks for joining. Thanks for making this possible, Sidamma. And a lot of hard work you have done. Thanks for all your efforts.
Oh, thank you so much. And let's get started with the session, and then maybe we discuss how it goes. Yeah. So
You're able to share, right?
yeah, I'm just doing that.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm Siddhamati Tigri, and as you know, you might have heard me in other meetups, so you might be aware or know me. Those of you who might not know me, just a quick introduction. Um, I have around 14 plus years of experience, out of which most of it is in integration sphere. And currently, I'm based out of Netherlands, and I'm working for Devoteam. and basically my expertise is all into integrations, APIs, and all of that. So yeah, so that's all about me. So coming to the topic that we're discussing today, right, which we want to address today is MuleSoft RPA. So basically the agenda or the topics that we plan to cover during this meetup is understanding what is RPA. Okay. Understanding the life cycle of the MuleSoft RPA, what are its components. Okay. And most importantly, when you talk about RPA, what is it that you can actually automate, right? What are the steps, or what are the activities which can be automated and which are ideal to be automated? So we would want to understand that. Also, towards the end of this, we will do a DIY. We'll do a simple illustration of a Mule RPA process. And at the same time, we'll also publish that process bot to the Anypoint Exchange as a REST API, and then consume it within our Mule application. So that's the summary of what we want to address in today's meetup. Okay, and definitely towards the end of it, we'll have a trivia quiz which you can answer and win some vouchers for training. All right, let's try to understand what is RPA, right? So there's a lot of buzz about DevOps. There's a lot of buzz about automation. There's a lot of talk about AI, and a lot of these things being discussed in the IT world today, right? So when we talk of robotic process automation, right? So what exactly is RPA? So at the end of the day, there are a lot of repetitive tasks that we do day to day which are very boring, which is something that it kills your time. And if you can automate these activities, you can kind of save time. And also, you need not have to repeat those same tasks all by yourself. You can save that time to do something much more efficient, or you can use that same time for your personal work or anything else, right? So just to understand what that is, so this is some of the definitions that we see when you might search online to check what is RPA. You might just read this, right? That automation is a software to end repetitive tasks and make digital transformation a reality, right? So let's take a simple example. Like, you go to a general store to buy a packet of chips. How would you automate this entire activity? The person has to keep standing in the store to just sell you a packet of chips, right? So instead of that, you'd probably have a vending machine which will probably just key in your note, or your what is that, your money, and you'll get and you just make a choice of which item you'd want to pick. You put in the code, and then you have your packet of chips or your chocolates or whatever, right? So you have a vending machine. It's a very good example of how you could probably automate that entire activity. So when it comes into the software IT world, there are a lot of activities which we do which are very repetitive. So those activities can be automated using robotic process automation, and there are a lot of products in the market today to automate this processes, right? And the best part of this whole thing is when you automate these kind of activities, which are like, say, there are a few keystrokes that you do. You might just open a Chrome, and you might Google a word, and it'll open pages to pages of searches, right? You'll have one page of search. Okay. And then there'll be many pages which will come subsequently. You can do this entire search on online by just automating it on a click of a button using RPA, rather than you doing it manually, opening up the Chrome, typing in the word, and then searching it, and then capturing that information. And so there are many such use case scenarios where we see this repetition happening, right? So we can automate those using RPA. And most importantly, when you automate such kind of processes by using RPA, you're saving a lot of time, and definitely you're also doing away with all the boredom, because it's so repetitive. It's such a boring thing to do, right?
So, Siddhama, just a quick request. So you can just hide that, that Google thing can come as at the top, the bottom, that stop sharing, hide, that we can just hide it below. There is a hide button, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's thanks. Thanks.
Yeah. So, what is RPA? So it basically RPA automates repetitive human tasks with software bots. Okay, RPA can be applied to any system that has a UI, even a legacy system. Okay, so it can be applied to that. RPA works in conjunction with API and integration to achieve hyper automation, and a business-led approach organization used to identify, vet and automate processes, right? So let's try to understand, in day-to-day activities. I can give you an example, and also with respect to business led approaches in organizations, how we can automate those kind of processes. So common use cases that we come across, right, for RPA are data extraction, right, payroll processing, price comparison, processing refunds. Okay, like, for example, you order something, and then you want to return it back, and then you have a complete process of refund that happens in the background. There's a lot of people doing that activity, so you can actually automate that entire process. Common repetitive tasks like moving folders and files, email interaction, preparing manual merging data, logging in and logging out of apps, and filling out forms. And most importantly, something that you guys can actually relate to would be something like filling up the timesheet every week. How many of us really forget filling our timesheets, and then there are follow-ups, and then your manager gives you a call, tells you that you've missed filling up your timesheet. There are so many mail chains going on, and they actually chase you to fill up timesheet. A very good example of, maybe something that can be automated in a way, right? So these are the common use cases that we usually see, which are a good case for RPA automation. Okay. So let's take a classic example in industry where we do invoice processing workflow. Okay, so what are the different steps, or what are the manual activities that the person or the accounting team does? It's very cumbersome, and this whole process of invoice processing is error prone sometimes, and it's very repetitive. And we can automate this to bring in better employee satisfaction rate, right? So if you look at these steps, right, which these are the activities which the accounting team does for the invoice processing. So what happens is they search for invoices in the emails, they download those invoices, then they manually select the invoice data, they copy paste that data in they pick it from a couple of other documents, and then they paste it into an Excel sheet. Okay, then they log it into some legacy invoicing system, and they manually enter the invoice data, and they complete this invoicing process. So basically these are a couple of steps which happen, and we can take this as an example. And each of these steps where they manually do all these activities can be automated. So you might think, how can you automate everything, right? How can you automate a search, a copy, a paste? So basically, um, RPA gives you that tool. RPA is that tool which helps you to capture the clicks and the searches and the copy and paste, all these activities. It can mimic that, and it can actually do this on behalf of you, and that's how you can actually automate it, right? So coming to MuleSoft RPA key highlights. Right now, today we are talking of MuleSoft RPA. There are a lot of RPA tools in the market. You might have heard of UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism. There are different automation tools, and MuleSoft has brought in its own RPA flavor, and it is very promising. So, what are the capabilities of a MuleSoft RPA as a tool, right? So, if you look at this offering, MuleSoft RPA Manager is available on the cloud. So it's a UI which you can easily access from anywhere, right? So it's easy to onboard the user who wants to use this RPA tool. Next, it's automation and built-in governance is great. As in, you will see that when I show you the demo as to how you can actually involve the entire RPA a delivery team, including the manager, the business analyst, the developer, the tester, all of them, can be involved in this entire life cycle of this RPA implementation. So it is a great built-in life cycle management tool it has, and it's something that helps it to be much more robust. It helps it to, roll out the solution efficiently, because the project manager will be in a position to make a decision, right, to whether this idea should be automated, or whether this activity which is repetitive should be automated. It is going to create business value, right? So he should be one of the stakeholders. At the same time, the implementation team should have the right right access to go and implement it on the tool. So you can onboard the development tool the team, and at the same time, even the testing team, which actually understands how this entire activity should be tested. So all these multiple stakeholders can be onboarded, and MuleSoft RPA gives you that control for that kind of governance and onboarding of the RPA project. Then the third most important feature of this RPA is that, I think this is the coolest feature, and I'm sure most of our developers and people who are working hands-on, they'll be very much excited to know, is that this entire RPA automation that you implement, you can actually publish this as a REST API to Anypoint Exchange, and then consume that API in your Mule applications or Mule APIs. So basically, you have end-to-end automation, right? So it's a very exciting feature, which we will see when we do the demo, right?
So, one quick question, Siddhama. So, we're talking, discussing about the benefits, the advantages, everything. So, have you, since you have done a lot of, exposure to this, and so, are there any challenges have you faced with this? So, is there any, you know, definitely we will discuss about the pros and cons, right? So, that kind of a comparison have you done?
The cons, see, the most important step, that's where, the most important step during the RPA life cycle is the evaluation phase, I would say. This is a very critical phase. When I show you the demo, you might just see it like, okay, we are identifying the key metrics to understand whether this qualifies, this particular automation qualifies for a RPA implementation or not. So this is a very key step during the RPA cycle. I think that is where, so when you actually work with real customers, I'm sure that will be the step where you will actually face which will be a little tricky one to resolve, the evaluation phase, I would say.
Okay.
The implementation and rolling it out, the technical aspect of it is not such a big challenge. The bigger challenge would be the evaluation. So that's very, very key.
Okay. Cool.
We will see that, when we just do the DIY, we'll try to do a evaluation step, so you can see the key metrics which are available there, and how we actually apply that. Only when it goes into the green zone, then, maybe it qualifies. So there's a business case which your project manager will eventually approve and say, okay, go ahead with this RPA implementation. So this is entire life cycle based implementation. Yeah.
And okay, and one more thing, I can see there is a question from Jay actually. So he's asking, are there any contract type of things in RPA ecosystem? So how can anybody consume the RPA process instance? Probably you'll be showing this in your demo, deployed on MuleSoft. And also telling, I don't think there would be any contract or RAML type of thing. So can you elaborate something like that?
Contract or RAM. So the feature is basically, so this is the third one which I was talking about, right? So basically, when you create your RPA process, right? So they have given a feature wherein, now if you want to have an end-to-end, when you want to have an end-to-end automation, right? We are working in the MuleSoft space now, and I'm sure all of us are working with APIs. You have created your experience APIs, process APIs, system APIs, right? So you're unlocking data, you're integrating systems, you're creating an application network. But the end-to-end automation story does not end there, right? You'd want to have, there are a lot of still, there's a lot of digital transformation I use the word digital transformation. So there's still a lot of digital transformation which is still in our scope for automation. And to achieve those kind of activities, like for example, which I gave you, right, these use cases which I was addressing here, the common use cases where we are kind of doing a lot of manual activity which teams are doing, copying data from one place to the other. They're doing a lot of manual steps, and this is something not everything can be automated using the API, right? Like for example, they're specifically going and picking and choosing a specific data and copying that and moving it to some other places. So there in the background, okay, the back office, I would call it as, in the back office processes are many a times very manual and they're very repetitive. So in those kind of business use cases, we see a requirement where we can automate and bring in more efficiency, accuracy, and a better customer employee satisfaction rate. So coming back to that same question, how do you talk about contract? So when you, that is the need for RPA. Now when you create a RPA process in MuleSoft, okay, you can expose that entire process as a APA. You can actually publish that process, deploy it onto a bot and publish that to the exchange, to the anypoint exchange. And in the anypoint exchange, it should be visible as a REST connector. And you can use that connector to uh, embed or consume into your Mule application. And in your Mule application, when you invoke your Mule application, it in turn will actually invoke the RPA process, right? So this is just a technical capability that we can achieve, yes. And where you would want to use it, that will be an exciting topic, I'm sure. There are, the sky is the limit. You can do a lot of things with that particular technical feature, where you can actually make your RPA, MuleSoft RPA bot talk to your Mule application or a API. So they're not disconnected, they're pretty well easily integrated. In fact, we have the composer also, which has the very good interaction integration with Mule RPA. Yeah.
Siddhama, I too have one question on the similar grounds. So,
Yeah,
may okay. So, as far as I understood, like there are some scenarios which we can automate. Like not everything can be automated, as you mentioned, and you explained very clearly on that part.
we have to, this evaluation phase is very very
Yeah.
important. So
Yeah, you said
I
like
would,
the last part we can expose the RPA process as an API and exchange, okay? But if not, like what is the other alternative? Like if we don't want to expose that as the API, but what is the other way of utilizing that RPA process?
it depends how the process has been designed. It's not always required for you to actually expose it as a API. It will still keep running at its place. So how you would want to invoke it? Do you want to just have it like a scheduler which runs after every 1 hour, or it runs only once in a week? Okay. So there are different scenarios, and how that trigger will happen, you have multiple ways to trigger it. Okay. So based on those particular actions, that process will get triggered. So it's if you would want to kind of compare it, you can probably look at it like, yes, like a Mule application itself. How can you trigger a Mule application, right? HTTP call is also one of them. It's a very standard example, right? You just a real time one. You could also have a scheduler. You could also have a file based.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure,
different
sure,
forms.
got it.
And in classic cases for RPAs are like where you have that OCR implementation, right? You take a image, a PDF file, and there's a lot of data, and you capture that, and then from there you pick the content and then put it into an Excel sheet, which is much more editable. Or maybe from an image you pick the text and you put it onto a editable format. So a lot of such activities. Even digitization of data, right? For example, there's a handwritten form, a very classic example in Indian offices, right, where where the people who go to a office, they're given a form, a hard copy. They actually fill in all their details, right, the KYC details or whatever is their request or requirement. And once that detail is put onto the piece of paper, you'd want to digitize that information. It's very much possible. You can actually scan that, and then you don't have to actually go and manually feed each and every pages and pages of forms. Because if there are 100 people coming in, doing it for 100 different people is a very cumbersome task. You can actually automate that whole process, right? And definitely you'll have much more accuracy and speed. So it's a very classic example where you can do that. All right. I'm not sure if I've been able to answer your question, Jay. Um, okay, I'll
Yeah.
proceed with this. I'll
Sorry.
proceed with this, and as we go ahead, and when you see the demo, you'll have much better idea. And maybe if you still have questions, we'll take them. All right.
Sure, 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 sure.
So we go to the Mule RPA life cycle. So we there are more steps involved, definitely, like for example the prerequisites of setting up the RPA tool itself, which is not accounted for in the RPA lifecycle, at least here. So at a high level we have six steps here, or six cycles. So here if you see, evaluate is a very important step. So this does the assessment. It is an assessment to evaluate whether or not a given process will be valuable to automate, right? You can automate, technically everything can be automated, but does that create a business value? Does it solve a problem, is a question. So in Mulesoft RPA, there is a very nice way, there's a very nice feature where it takes care of doing this step. Okay, so you can actually evaluate, and by filling in key matrices, okay, you will get the proper information whether this qualifies for automation. Okay, so that's the evaluation step. We will see that when we do the demo. Once it has been qualified, once the evaluation information has been fed into the system, into the RPA manager, the next thing that happens is the project manager who is responsible or who is funding this activity would either approve or reject it based on the case. Okay, if they find this business case to be valid, they'd go ahead and approve it. So once that approval comes in, let's assume a happy case where it actually qualifies for the RPA automation, then it is approved by the manager, and then it goes into the design phase. What happens in the design phase is, we actually design the entire activity. What are the different steps that happen in this entire process. So you design all the steps necessary to have a complete coverage of the process, which needs to be finally implemented. You can probably, just to give you an analogy, please don't think that design, when you say design, it is actually like creating a ramel. But yes, you can still compare it like, yes, it's like creating a ramel. It's like creating, so in design phase you're actually creating a BPMN. And what this BPMN is, a business process model notation. So what this actually does is it actually creates a blueprint for your actual process automation. It creates a design for it, and taking this design you can go ahead and build your process. Okay, so once the design phase is completed, again there will be a approval process that will go to your manager. Your manager has to approve that design. So once that approval happens for that particular design, then only it moves to the build phase. And the person who's allocated the task, okay, the developer who's allocated that task to build that particular process, the task is visible in their console. Okay, and then they're able to take that task and continue with their build. So to do that build, usually a RPA builder is used, okay, which is a standalone Windows based tool, similar to kind of a IDE, which you can use to implement your RPA process. All right. Next, you can also use the RPA recorder. It's a very good tool. So not it's optional. You need not always use a RPA recorder, but it's a good one to use because what RPA recorder does is the actual activities that you do. Like for example, you click on a Chrome, you open a Google page, and then you select a particular link, and then you log into that page. So all these different click events and data feed events are all captured by RPA, and the corresponding activities are created by the RPA recorder. So that is also a great feature to have. I mean, so in certain cases you might not use it, but yeah, most of the cases you might. Okay, so you have RPA builder, you have RPA recorder. This will help you to build your RPA. So once you have built your RPA, then the next step would be to test it, right? So when you want to test this, you'd probably there is a there's a team which actually does this actual testing, right? So a task is allocated to the testing team. So this job of build, when it is completed, the RPA process moves into the next stage, that is the testing stage, and that task of testing gets allocated to the testing team, okay, who are involved in this testing. And then once they create the test cases, they execute the test cases, and everything has gone successfully, then this task of testing is completed. And once this task of testing is completed, then this is moved to the production stage. That is, we actually go and deploy that um, process to the actual environment, okay. And of course these are all controlled by approvals. And once your deployment is done, the next thing is definitely you're going to monitor it, you're going to see how it has moved, or there are errors and all of that, right? So then you have the operate phase, where your IT or operations team will have a task to manage this operation. So these are the steps involved in the RPA life cycle.
Siddharma, just one question here. So when we say this RP manager and these business and developer IT team for testing and all, so these are all actually MuleSoft representative or someone from our team only?
They are stakeholders involved in this entire see, let's look at this way. Don't look at it like in your a standard Mule project that you have, right? You will have a manager who is kind of involved, who brings in the who actually foresees the overall delivery for that project, okay. So you have different stakeholders. So if you would want to understand the stakeholders, so here, right, if you see this, it gives you a very good picture. So you have a business team, you have a RPA developer team, and then you have a IT team. So this is the breakup of how this is placed, right? So the business team, which knows, that this is something that we can see, the whole IT implementation, or the digitization that we do today has to be aligned with the business. We're doing it because it is going to create value for the business, right? We're creating APIs, or we're creating RPAs, all of this, right? Automations or CI/CD. All this is created so that it creates business value at the end of the day, some kind of profit, some kind of savings, ease of use, and operation, okay, and achieving digital transformation at the end of the day, right? So here in the broader view, we have these stakeholders. We have a business team which brings in it could be the person who actually would evaluate that idea of RPA, so, and approve it. And also they might be the people who understand the activities, right? Because they are doing the business, they know what exactly goes into each of those activities, so they will also be contributors towards the design, okay. They might optionally use the recorder, okay, all right. And then you have RPA developers who would actually go and build that RPA for you. And once they have built it, uh, they will this whole process will move to the testing phase, where your IT testing team will come into picture, and also your operations team, which will maintain that in the environment, will come into picture. So there'll be a team which will test it end to end, and then there'll be a team which will manage that particular service, or a process in the environment. So this is the broader view. uh, does that answer your question? um,
Yeah, I think. But just one last question: this IT teams, when you say like, so this is some belongs to our project team, or it's actually from the MuleSoft representative?
it would be your own business IT team. It could be like, for example, you're working for, say, Acme company. Acme organization already has a testing team, okay, and also they have their own operations team. So yes,
We can easily
that's
tag
the
them, right, to respective
yes,
location.
definitely.
Yeah,
Their ID should be they should be onboarded to the RPA tool, and you can
yeah.
assign that task to them. The testing task can be assigned to their names,
Yeah, it's
and
not a
also the
compulsion that
duration.
we should always engage a MuleSoft representative only for the approval of evaluation and in terms of design, and only the developer. I mean, I am as a developer. Let's say I'm putting some idea as a kind of evaluation, and if it's got approved, so I can be myself in the build stage, right?
Yes, You see, basically, you cannot add yourself as a approver. There will be a task which will be added to you by your project manager in the tool, in RPA Manager tool. And when you're added, it will, when you log in with your credentials, on the RPA Manager console, when you go to your tasks, you'll be able to see a task is allocated to you with all the details, what is the duration involved in completing the RPA process, and which is that task that you need to complete. All those details will be available for you when you log in as a with your credentials as a developer.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, we have these three components in Mule RPA. One is the RPA Manager, RPA Recorder, and RPA Builder. So as I told you, RPA Manager is that it's a cloud console where you can log in and you can manage the entire life cycle of the RPA process, starting from evaluation phase to the operations, where it actually goes into the production, right? And um, most of the almost all the stages of the implementation of RPA can be tracked, and it can be done using RPA Manager. Only one a phase where we involve the build phase. For that, you need the RPA Builder, and for advanced activity automation and adding and capturing the screenshots, screen recording, where you do the clicks and searches and data feed, all those operations, you might want to leverage RPA Recorder. So only two scenarios we see RPA Recorder and Builder scoped in, but most of the cases your RPA Manager is a full-fledged place where you can actually see all the different stages or life cycle of the RPA. All right. So I'll show it to you. When we do the DIY, I think we'll spend more time there than just going through this. So basically, how we do the evaluation. So we f- we key in key metrizes, regarding the complexity, regarding the risk and the other qualifiers, and based on those qualifiers and benefits that this RPA process can bring, if it goes into the green zone, then you can submit it to your manager, who can then approve it, and then you can proceed into the design and build phase and test and so on and so forth. um, so how do you create so the whole so basically the entire automation through MuleSoft RPA involves 8 steps. Okay, first of all, prerequisites: you should have the right accesses to the tool, and you should have installed the RPA builder on your machine. All of that, those might be your prerequisites. You should have the right role and access on the RPA manager. Okay, then your other steps, they kick in, wherein you do the evaluation phase. Okay, once evaluation is completed, you create the automation project, you design the BPN in the design phase, then you do the build you'll do the actual build or implementation of that BPN, and then you'll test that automation, and then you'll deploy it. And of course, you'll also monitor and manage it once it's in production. So this is the overall, the steps involved in creating the RPA bot. So for today's demo, what we plan to do is a very simple RPA hello automation, hello app automation. So basically, what we are going to do is we are going to create a simple hello world RPA bot, deploy that onto in your RPA manager, and once the deployment is completed, we are going to publish that as a REST API asset onto Exchange, and then consume it in our MuleSoft API, and then see how this whole interaction works end to end from your Mule API to the RPA process bot. Yeah. So this will be our example. So before I go to demo, do we have questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions from the participants, Sudhama.
Yeah,
One from
yeah,
Suresh Patra. So he's asking, so we discussed about the different roles, right? So is he
yeah.
asking, as a developer, do they require only access to this RPA builder? Is there any stage where they also need access to any of the RPA manager features, something like that?
Yes, they should have access to the RPM manager, and they should be onboarded in the RPM manager, because when the task gets allocated to you in RPM manager, you should be able to take that task, and you should be able to take this design. The design will be implemented in BPN. So you can take that BPN which has already been designed, and you can, in some cases, definitely the developer only might be doing the design. It's case to case basis, it depends, but usually the design is accomplished by the business team who know the activity end to end. All right. So ideally, yes, you should be onboarded on RPM manager. Just the builder will not suffice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second question is, just a couple of people have asked the same question. So, is there any RPA trial account provided? So, can they explore things?
That's a good question. I think you should reach out to your org admin, and I'm sure they will have an account where they can onboard you and give you access so that you can do some kind of hands-on. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Siddharth.
Yeah, just like how you have for any point platform. I know you can create a trial account, but right now, if for RP at least to start with, right now, you will have to reach out to your org admin, and they will add you. They will add your user and give you the required roles. And once you get the invite, you should be able to log into the RPA manager and start using it. And from your RPA manager console itself, you will be having the option to download the RPA builder, recorder, and all of that. So yes. Yeah. So I can proceed with the demo, um, Sandeep.
Yeah, I think we are all good, Siddharth. So, we can
Okay.
move forward.
Yeah. So I'll start with the demo. Sandeep, just let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, yes, we are.
Are you able to see the RPM manager?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me sign out from here. So I just logged into the RPM manager. Now, if I go to the home, just to quickly give you a navigation idea of how this looks like, right? So here you can see once you come to the home page, you have an option to download. Okay, you have an option to download the recorder, the RPA builder. Okay, you can download these, and what you need to do is basically understand that uh, this is a place where you can see all the tasks. Okay, my RPA. If you go here, and if you see my user tasks, right now nothing is allocated to me, so I would not see anything. But when we start doing something and we start allocating a task, they should be reflecting somewhere here. My processes, okay, these were the processes that I worked on, so you can see some processes here. If there's anything in the backlog, like for example, you had some tasks but you were not able to complete it due to some changes in the process design, or some revisions, so it'll go into your backlog. um, so you have this my process dashboard, right? So all this will be reflect, when you start implementing your process. Now let's go to the process evaluation phase, and let's create a process and see, what exactly happens in the process evaluation phase, right? So so here there's an option to create, and I have created a couple of processes so you can see them as well. So let's try to create a process. Okay, I'll say, let's give a name. Let's call it as, say, meetup demo. Okay, and I just use a category which is available for me. You can create a separate category as well. Okay, you can explore that. So basically, I create a new project. Okay, and let's do the evaluation of this. Say okay. So now I key in some key values here. Okay, what is the cost, right? First of all, manual, how do you get the cost of this entire process? Okay, so these are the key matrices that you're supposed to feed in. First of all, manual process execution time. How much time does your process take to complete? So let's assume the current, let's take a simple example. My timesheet, okay, it takes me almost more than um, 10 minutes to, it takes me almost more than 10-15 minutes to fill my timesheet, because in my timesheet I'm also supposed to fill in the details of what was the work I did in that week, right? I'm supposed to give some key notes as to, today I worked on these all tasks, these were all the meetings I attended. It's not just keying the number of hours and submitting, right? So it's also description. So let's assume like I'm taking like around say let's take like I'm taking around 10 minutes, okay? um, I'm taking 10 minutes, and cost per process run. So here you might ask, how will I know the cost? So basically, we all work and we are paid, okay? So when you're spending some time of that particular day, number of hours or minutes, there is some cost involved in that, right? So you have spent, if you're if you spend some time of your day on that particular activity, that will involve some cost, because that will be your time. So your time is cost. So what I would say is, say like it might be like say $15 or something like that roughly. And then a frequency per month or per week, I could say, it happens like say 4 times. Okay, let's assume a 4 week month, so it at least happens 4 times I'm filling up the timesheet, right? So something like that. I can give some description here. Okay, let's leave that. Let's look at the qualifiers and benefits, right? So what is this input and output, right? Whether it is structured or unstructured. Of course it is unstructured, right? Because it's not something that will always have a structure. You'll have many meetings, you'll have different things that you do in the during the day. You might have workshops, you might have scrum meetings and whatnot, right? So it is unstructured data, so I'll keep the score a little on the higher end. Okay. The nature of work, judgment based, yes it is, because in certain cases you might be out of office, you might be on a leave, or you're on a vacation, so the permutation combinations will change, right? So nature of work changes, so we can give it a little higher. Then stability, how stable is this work, because how frequently am I filling it up? It's like 4 times in a month, right? And sometimes I even forget, and sometimes I even make a mistake when I fill it up. I even the timesheet gets rejected because instead of personal leave, I have put some other leave or something like that, right? Or I have clocked the number of hours on a day which is a national holiday, so it's error prone. So the stability, I will assume not so stable, right? Then data type, image interpretation, I'll leave it as default. I'm not going to touch this one because there's nothing like a OCR or image processing in this involved in this place. It's more of text, so I'll leave it there. The output quality, right? What would be the benefits that I would get out of this? I assume that the benefits will be a little higher, so if I move it on the higher end, then you can see this qualifier also moving towards the green zone, right? Similarly, the complexity that is involved for this one, right, is a bit high, I would say, or a little moderate probably. Okay. And the risk is not very high, but in certain cases what happens is you forget filling up your timesheet, the budgeting and the other activities which are required, invoicing that is required by the team, right? It becomes a bottleneck for them, so the risk is a little higher, right? So that's the reason you get chased multiple times. So you can see this, it has almost reached the green zone right now. So if I increase the amount of risk here, for example, or any of these parameters, if I keep moving the complexity to the higher end, you'd see this qualifier will move to the green zone. So the idea is, if it is in the green zone, it means it has a higher rate of approval from your manager, or from it qualifies for being automated. Okay. So once you do this, I would simply save it. Do you have any questions at this point? I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions, but it is from case to case basis, guys. So um, it depends how you evaluate all these key parameters. But the idea is you should be able to gauge and understand how complex or how how much of business value it's going to create. Definitely the complexities, the qualifiers like these, the stability, the nature of work, whether it is very tedious, whether it is, and even the description is available here. Okay, you can hover over the description and read through it and understand a bit more. And most importantly, this becomes a very key factor, the execution time involved. In certain cases it could be like half a day. I've just given 10 minutes here, but I'm sure I might be spending 30 minutes just doing timesheet, because I'm doing timesheet for my own company where I might be working, and I might also be working for some other customers of my company, and even they might have their own timesheet, and I might be filling up that timesheet as well. So there might be 2 or 3 timesheets I might be filling up. So assume it's a 30 minutes activity. So even if instead of 10, even if I put it as 30, so this is the amount of time, 30 minutes every week. So it's into 4 times. So it's almost 2 hours of effort. And you just, if every time it's like $15, it's into 4 times. So that is the cost involved. Can I automate this process and reduce that time so that I have more personal time where I can use that time maybe to do some other productive work like innovation or anything else? Just giving you an example. Okay. So based on that, I'm just giving you an example which is much more relatable to you. But when it comes to business, I'm sure they will have much more complex processes which are very error prone, which are very manual, which are very time consuming and very, very, very repetitive. So you will have much more, maybe it's more than an hour, it might be hours, and the frequency much might be much, much higher. It might be like it's happening every day. Okay, and it is happening multiple times in a day, not just in a month. So this number will definitely increase. So more these numbers are on the higher end, it's much more of a qualifier for us to assume it as it's a case for
Hi,
automation.
Siddhama. Actually, yeah, there is something that we have got in the Q&A section. Okay, so let's pick one by one. I think Jay Dikshit has to say that this activity should be done by business analysts. I'm sure, not by developers.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
and
Yes.
shouldn't you keep these bars towards left only for more unstable and unstructured thing? I
Yes.
think you have kept it right only, right?
Yeah.
Moving it to the
That's
right, yeah, is the, I mean, if we have more unstructured data, I think it's right to show more green and just move it to the right section, and if we have structure, then you will move it to the left, right?
yeah.
Is that okay? So I hope that clears your question, Jay. And Mustafa has to say, is there any option to change or customize this slider parameters based on business requirements?
Yes, I think so. You should be able to. There's a evaluation criteria. You can see this here. So yeah, if there's a custom requirement for your RPA where you'd want to add more parameters, I think you should be able to do that. Yeah.
Okay. And there's one more from Shruti Singh. Mulesoft RPA looks similar to Salesforce Process Builder in terms of use cases, but the scope and complexity of RPA is larger than Process Builder. Okay, I would rather take it as a statement.
Okay.
All right,
Could you just repeat that, please?
sure. Mulesoft RPA looks similar to Salesforce Process Builder in terms of use cases, but the scope and complexity of RPA is larger than Process Builder. I mean, Salesforce Process Builder. Yeah.
Okay, see, don't compare it with a business process automation. Okay, so business process automation is, I think RPA is the next level after business process automation. I think earlier we used to also, in other technologies, we used to also have this something called as beeples. Okay, where we actually do this human tasks, and this entire activity which is kind of maybe approval based or task based, you can kind of automate it completely end to end. Okay, that was the initial stage of automation. But but RPAs give you a very higher level of automation capability, right? uh, all these manual tasks, like for example, even if I'm opening up Chrome. Okay, I just go here, and then I say, I just type in some details. I say Kochi Meetup. Okay, then I go to this page. I do this click event. Okay, and then I select, I do a RSVP. I actually go and say, okay, I want to attend this meetup. I click on it, and then I do a RSVP. All these steps, right? I can use a recorder and I can capture that. It's a very simple example. Just imagine, there are pages and pages of documentations which have to be automated. They have to be uploaded to a site, and there's a lot of analysis that needs to happen on that data, and so on and so forth, right? So those entire steps which have become, which are like a bottleneck, you might have n number of systems in your architecture landscape, but there will be some places where you need to have which are still manual, like these, where you are kind of picking data, you're copying from one place to the other, making a decision, where your finance team is involved. I gave you a classic example of invoicing, things like that. So these kind of processes, you can achieve end to end automation. That's the whole goal, right? We want to achieve end to end automation. It's not just from Salesforce to MuleSoft to say SAP or some other system, but it is like overall in your entire IT landscape, there are so many processes, right? So you'd want to automate as much as possible, as well as long as they're creating business value. All right. Any other question?
I think we are good for now. We can proceed.
Okay, so I will just save this for now. Okay. We can also exclude some of these. Okay. If I want, I can simply exclude it. I can exclude some of these parameters. If I feel, they are not relevant to me, I can simply exclude it. Okay. I'll simply save this for now. Okay. It has been saved. And it will ideally go to the, okay, this is the meetup one, right? So since I have the a role of a manager on this console, on this RPA manager, I have an option to approve this. Okay, so I can go to this one. I can take a look at this particular process evaluation report, and actually I can approve it. So if I go to my RPA as well, if I go to RPA evaluation itself, so I have an option to approve it. So I can say approve. So I can actually allocate a approver. Just say approve the project. I might not have it. I need to edit the access so that I have access to it. So basically the idea is I should be able to approve it. Okay. So it will go to the project manager to whom it has been allocated, and that person will be able to approve this evaluation. Okay. So once this is approved, if I try this one, let's see if it works. I somehow don't see myself here coming up. Anyway, but there's an option. I should be able to approve this process, and once the evaluation is completed, it will go into the design phase. Okay. So I wish I could show you that, because I need to put this into the design, because I have another one which I've already created. It was approved by someone else. That's the reason you can actually see it. But basically what happens is once you've approved this process, it will go into the design phase. Let's see if I can do it this way. I don't see it coming. Maybe I don't have the right access. Okay. So anyway, so basically once you have approved, once you have created the evaluation, it will go into the design phase. And once the design has been created, the next thing that you will do is I have created one, so you can just take a look at that. So in the process management tab, I have one example here. So this is how it actually looks like. This is the BPMN. So when it comes into your design phase, I have actually implemented it. And there's nothing much that I did. This this is coming by default. These two activities. You have the start activity and then another a message activity here, which just gives a pop up and it says hello, and then there is the end of this activity. So it's a very simple and a very basic RPA process that is created here in the BPN MN. And once this has been created in the design and implementation phase, I'm talking about design. In the design, you will not have the workflow defined. So if you go to this RPA builder, if you just do a refresh right now, there's nothing in the design phase, so you're not seeing it. There's only one thing that is in the design phase, which is another process which you see here. So it will um, when you have a simple process, it will not have these many activities. It might have very few, which I showed you here, something like this. And here there's an option for you to define the workflow, right? So for example, for this one, yeah, so here I can go and edit, and I can create a workflow. I can also add a couple of other activities or events into this particular dashboard. Now, if you look at the actions available, okay, you have these tools. You have various other. You can use a recorder to record, and it will create a activity for you, and you can add that to your BPMN. Or basically what you're trying to do is, in the design phase you have just created a block, but if you want to actually zoom it out, as in create a precise steps involved in that particular activity, you can use the recorder, create illustrate I mean precisely get the complete activity description, okay, and add that into this BPMN. And and the other option is also, if you're well versed with all these different options here, right? Like for example, you can use like say for example, you can copy a file option, you can do a file check, you can do a delete a file, all these different options, right? OCR is a very good one, like OCR with AWS. um, you can do mail. So there are multiple different options available here, so you can actually do a drag and drop, and you can use those options here to create your you can to implement your BPMN. And once you have implemented your BPMN, you can actually test it here. Okay, you can actually, there's an option to test it. For example, you can use this button and you can do a run process and test it. And once you're happy with the implementation, this one is a different one and it has some errors. It's not a completely implemented one. Okay, since I'm not able to bring the current one to design phase because this is already in production, up and running, right? So I'm just trying to explain how it is done, right? So once you have finished the testing, basic testing here, you can just do a upload option. So you have a upload project option. So once you do this upload, your uh, build phase is complete. Okay, and this task, it will not be complete, it will just go to the dashboard of the project manager who's managing this delivery, and he or she will evaluate that it has the implementation is as expected, and then they will move it to a complete phase. So once it is moved into the complete phase, you will be in a position to go to the next life cycle, which is the testing phase. So then that task will be allocated to your tester, who should be able to create the test cases and actually run that test. So that you can see here. For example, since this process is completed, you should be able to see this. For example, you will not see the test cases because I did not do any test cases, but you should be able to see the test results here. For example, last, let's say 5 hours, okay, and say update. So you can see something has run in the last 5 hours. So if you see this option here, you should be able to see. Just a second. Just go back to the process management tab. I go to this demo. Okay, and here The last number of hours, if I, anyways, I'll test it for you so you can see it actually work end to end. You'll be able to see some things coming up here, some logs getting updated for the test results, right? So if I say, for now, even if I say 5 hours and I say update, you should be able to see this, the success. You can see this when it was run. So you can see that entire log. You can also download that test result. So that option is available. You can actually see the test. I close this. So once you're going back to this life cycle, right? So once you have completed your testing, then you'll have the ability to publish that particular process to the production. So the minute you publish it to the production, it will get deployed onto the RPA bot. So you have that option to. Right now, I do not see that option. The reason is because it's already there in the production. Okay, you can see this. It's already there. You can see the Hello app already deployed that. It also shows it's up and running. So so once your deployment is done, in your monitoring tab you can actually go and check the status of the application, or sorry, the status of the process. So you can see this. You should be able to see there is a bot assigned to it, and this is the session. It says it's running. Okay, you can also see the bot state and operations details. So if you go here, you should be able to see the bot status. Uh, and of course, there is alerting and dashboard capability. We will try to understand that a bit more. But most important feature that we want to address in today's discussion is, um, the ability to integrate it with the Anypoint platform. For that, there are two important steps that you need to do. One is, in the organization management settings, it's very important that you key in the here there is option. You can see this.
So,
You can see Anypoint
quick
platform.
question before we go there. Couple of
Yeah.
questions we have here. So Sridhar is asking, so there must be an access management functionality, and there you can see the approval workflow that can be assigned to a respective person or something like that. So can we show?
Yes. Yeah. So this is the user management, which you can see here. And there are various. I cannot open all of them because I would not want to expose the users who are using this one. But basically, these are the different users, and they will be. You can create user groups. You can give them different roles, and you can create an API key as well. And this API key you can use when you're invoking your RPA process from an external source. Okay, so you can actually give this API key. You can generate that API key. Okay, so yes, in this user management, you can do this complete access management.
Okay. And another thing, so after the
And
process,
but you should have, they should have the access for that, Sandeep. They
got
should
it.
have that access. Otherwise, which they will not even be able to see it on their console. Yeah.
Yeah, and once after the process evaluation, so Sridhar is asking, remember seeing an RPA builder directly to build. So how are we designing the process? Maybe he's telling, sorry, I've missed it. So he's asking that.
No, I was not able to do that. The reason was after the evaluation phase, I should have an option to approve it. I was not able to approve it. So if I approve it, it will automatically move to the design phase.
Okay.
Okay, it will automatically move to the design phase. For most of you who are very curious and enthused of doing the hands-on, guys, I will be sharing all the links. You can do a self-paced learning on RPA. So it is a self-paced, just like how you do your training for MCD, the basic developer training for Mulesoft. There is also a training available for RPA, and it is self-paced. So if you go to training, if you go to this, you can try this hands-on once you have access to. So sorry, training, right? Yeah, so if I go here, and if I go to self-paced courses, so here you should see this. There's a self-paced free training available for RPA. So I'd encourage you guys, please give it a try. And I'm sure it will be very helpful for you. It has all the videos also available. So it's a 2 days activity. It'll be very difficult for me to give you that level of details in a meetup. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
tell
got
you
it.
the capabilities and keep your curiosity up, and tell you how exciting features that it has. But yes, you should definitely go, and you should be able to do this training. It's a self-paced training. It has good videos, nice examples. The only plus the additional effort that you need to put in is, please reach out to your org admin and get your access to RPA manager console, and from there I think you should be able to do the hands-on as well. So let me just put this link in your chat just so that you have it.
Yeah, okay. And another question from Disha. He's asking, so BPMN is where the developer would build the automation process, right? So in the manager, what are the steps required for design phase? Just adding the steps required to be checked. How are those added in manager?
Yeah, I wish I could do that, because the problem is I'm not able to, complete the evaluation. Yeah, approve that evaluation. If I could approve that evaluation, I could have moved it to the design phase, and I could have even shown you, how that design would happen.
Hmm,
Or
okay.
probably let me check if there are some processes in the design phase. Just give me a second. Uh, there should be something in the design phase. None of them are in the design phase. You see this? Most of them are either in the build phase or production or approved phase. So I don't see.
Hmm, okay, cool.
Oh, I can see this approved. Or somebody might have approved it. No. Anyway, let's go ahead. I would want to show you how the settings for it work. Setting for the Anypoint platform works with RPA, right? So if you go to the, can I move ahead, Sandeep, or do we still have questions?
Yeah, I can see two more. So one question is, Suresh is asking, so can we say that BPMN is the kind of skeleton of the whole process in the manager, or lead creates, which then developers need to complete by incorporating the actual code and various automation steps into it. So can he's asking,
He has answered his question, I think.
yeah.
He has answered his question. Yeah,
And
that's
other,
right.
yeah, another one in the timesheet management use case, like for the case where IP OP values have been entered into the sheet. So Abhishek is asking from where these values the RPA can pick during the process.
Okay, it is more of a use case question that he's asking. It's more of a design question, I think, but it's up to you, how you design it. If you'd ask me, I was also thinking about, it's a very interesting one. I would definitely want to automate the timesheet one, because it's really a very painful activity every week that we have to do. So yes, I can give you some ideas. Like for example, you might want to probably pick up the um, let me know if I've answered if I've understood the question correctly. You mean to say the activities that you do for the week, how do you update that? From where do you fetch
Yeah,
it?
from where
Is that
this
what you say?
RPA can pick during the process? Is there any automation or any value picking
Yes,
up?
we can do that. For example, it depends how you design it. Some of the ways of how you could probably do it is probably, give your Mule RPA process access to the application. Okay. So you will have access to the application. So if you see this process applications here, I have added them. You can also add them. These are not available by default, so you can actually add these applications to your process automation. If there's some X, say assume there is a SAP system, with which you want to do some kind of process automation, you can add that application here. Okay, so that's possible. So for example, in your case, right, where you're talking about timesheet, from where do I pick the data? I would probably want to use, just an idea, you can probably use it from a Google Calendar, right? So you, in your Google, keep your Google Calendar always updated with all the activities you're doing for the day throughout the week. And maybe your bot can probably, or your process can probably pick the details from this calendar, the description and details, and it can put that details into the timesheet when you're filling it up. So that way you don't have to type in anything, and you don't even have to put anything in your Excel sheet. Just pick all those details from Google Calendar. That's also an exam possibility. Or else you could also do it from a Google Sheet. Maybe you keep a Google Sheet updated every week, every morning or closing day, you just put it into your Google Sheet and you just keep it, and then maybe it picks up from the Google Sheet. But I think Google Calendar makes more sense to me, but it's up to you how you design it. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, just one question from my end, Sudama. I would more interested in that build phase. Okay, so once we are done with the design phase, building the all BPMN and IO and with the workflow and all. So how we are going to build it actually? Like by clicking on the, if you go in the RPA builder, maybe in the,
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you what happens basically, right? If you see this, there's a project here. You can see right now I can see only one project. If I just do a refresh, let's see, it will not come in. So basically here, right, this will actually pull the code from the from the RPA manager. So here you're logging in with your RPA manager credentials. You see this? I've used my RPA manager credentials. So this recorder is sorry, this builder, RPA builder, is tied up with your RPA manager. So once you have created the design there, you should be able to import that design here, or automatically you should be able to see that from the repository itself. It will be visible here. And once it is visible here, you should be able to take that and you should be able to um, do the implementation or build on that design. Yes.
yeah, let's say if I, my use case is more around connecting to SAP and all this legacy systems also, and where do I do the configuration? I mean the username, password configuration, all those stuff. Is it here,
Yeah,
RPA builder
yeah,
only?
it's available. It's available. So you can use this tool to do that. See,
Okay,
there are two ways of doing it. If you're well versed with these, you can give it a try, do your hands on, use all these elements and
sure.
drag and drop them onto your palette and use and see how they work. Much more smarter way and a faster way of doing, because all the actions you might not, because we are so used to all the steps that we look. For example, for a machine, moving the cursor to the Google Chrome and then clicking and opening a new tab is a task. For us, it's a given thing, right? We assume that it's not a big deal, right? So if you want to automate, I would say please give a try to the recorder, the Mule recorder, the RPA recorder. So just start your recorder. You can start your recorder. I can go there. I would want to finish off with the demo of the Anypoint platform integration, so that we cover that loop, and then we'll come back probably if you have more
Sure, sure,
questions on
sure.
this one.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go ahead with
So
that.
you can, yes, so you can use this RPA recorder. You can do a start of your recording, do all your steps. It will record all the steps and it will generate those. It will generate that code for you. That activity box and all of that, and you can just put that onto your BPMN and implement your build. That's all that you can do. It's technically that is how you achieve it.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to this one. I would want to show you this, right? So if you go to this organization management here, so there's a settings where you can integrate it with any point platform. I have given the client ID secret, and I've given the domain. In If yours is a US one, it'll be anypoint.mulesoft, or else it'll be eu1.anypointmulesoft.com. So based whether it is in Europe or it is a US, you can give the corresponding domain. And definitely the Anypoint organization, I have used a trial account, so the org ID, whichever I found there, I've keyed in that org ID. Now client ID secret, just remember one important thing. If I am already logged in, let me open. Let me just log into my trial account. I'm logged in here. So what I have done is you just go to your access management, most important. So you can, the way you need to connect is create a connected app. Okay. You can create a connected app, and what you need to do is create a connected app, say Kochi. Okay. And you can do on behalf of, and then add a scope. Just search for RPA. You should see something, say RPA integrator, and just say yes. Along with that, you can also give the exchange contributor and other roles as required, and just create a connected app. Okay. Once you do this, let's assume I'm doing this. Okay. And which is the business group, I say MuleSoft, I say review, say add scope. Okay. And I do a save. Okay, simple, right? Your connected app is created. You can do the copy this ID and copy this secret, and you need to key in those values here into your into your any point settings here in RPA manager. Okay, you need to key in these values, and then when you, like for example, if I do a change settings here, I've already keyed in the values. Okay, so these are the values, and it'll automatically, the minute you have, if I go to the previous one, I put the client ID secret from the connected app. I have given the domain as anypoint.mulesoft.com because mine is US. You can also give EU1 if it is Europe for in your case. All right, so once you've done this, I do a next, it'll automatically show the organization which is there for my account. So it's Mulesoft. So I just do a finish. Anyways, right now I'm not going to change anything because it's already there. I do a cancel. Okay, so this is how you will be able to connect from your RPA to your Anypoint platform. And the minute you do your deployment, okay, the most important step that you need to also do is you need to expose that as an invokable process. So what you need to do is, somewhere here you should be able to see it. I've gone to the process automation, process management, and if I go here in this one, see, you see this? For me, it is disabled because I've already done it, I think. So if you see this, right? Create an invocable run configuration. You see this option here? You need to enable this. Okay. If you enable this, create an invocable run configuration, it will allow you to publish this asset to the entire step where you're doing this create and invoke run configuration. Towards the end of it, what you will actually see is you'll be able to see the asset getting published to the exchange itself. Okay, so you should be able to see this. For example, this has got created here, and it has also come in with all its details, right? It's like a standard um, REST API, and you can also download it. You can download it as a Mule 4 connector. Okay, so I will just show you a quick run of this application, and you should be able to track the transactions on your process application here. Okay, in the process management view. Just a second. So if you see here, you see this test run results, right? So right now, last 1 hour, nothing, right? So let it be. Uh, Let me just show you. I just created a simple Mule application, okay? And when you have published the RPA process to the exchange, you should be able to find that REST connector. You should be able to download that REST connector, or just add it to your palette from here. So I just do search. So you can see this SID demo proc. You can actually see it. So you can add it, and you can also select the version. Since mine is just having one version, it will not show you anything. I'm not going to add it because I've already added it. Okay, so it's added here. And what I have done is, it's a very simple API, nothing fancy. It's just saying /RPA. And in transformation, I'm just setting the correlation ID. Okay, nothing else, no message, nothing. And this particular payload that I'm setting, it is as per the specification that is there in the console here, right, in the API portal. So if you look at this, so I've just taken it from here. I've just taken it from here. Okay, I've just taken this data and I've put it there. Okay, and then there are two operations here which we see. One is the start process and the other one is get process execution status. So I have included both of them and added few loggers. That's all. This very, very simple flow. Okay, so let me stop this flow first of all. Okay, let me stop this flow, and let's invoke and see what happens from here. It definitely will not give me any response. Okay, let me start it. And other important, there are three important steps I'll want to summarize, quickly summarize is, One is you need to have your AnyPoint settings set up here. Okay, here you need to set it up. And to do that, the client ID secret, you can get it by creating the connected app, which I showed you. Okay, this is an important step. Second thing that you need to also ensure, once you have done this, the second step is in your process management view or your process which you have already deployed, you have to ensure that it is in a invocable state. Okay, so if you see this process which we have, there's an option which says create an invocable run configuration. You should implement or you should configure this configuration. Only once you have done this, um, it will get published to the exchange. Okay, so these two things are important. After that, the other most important thing is go to your user management and get the API key. Okay, so you need to get the API key for this particular. You can just create a API key for your process. Any process that you create, you'll have a you'll have a feature which will allow you to create an API key, and you need to use that API key when you're invoking your application, right? Um, all right. So basically, that API key I will have keyed in. So if you see this connect configuration for this connector, I will have put the API key here. Sorry, you can see the host port and then the API key and the base path. Okay, and why I have taken this one, because this is the host which is there available there on your asset. Okay, in your asset. All right, so has this okay, the run, it has run successfully. So what I need to do is just invoke it. Okay, you can see this, it's not started state. That's what you are able to see right now. Now what I also want to see is what has happened here in the console, right? So let's go to this process management view, and let's go to our process. All right, okay, so here the test results is what we are interested. You're able to see this test result here. You see this time here, it is 10:01.
We can see that.
You see this?
Yeah.
So this is a handshake that has happened between your Mule API and your RPA. So you're able to see it. I can invoke once again. So you'll see one more event. Okay. So let's go back. Say close. It just takes a couple of seconds to refresh. Yeah, you can see it here. You can see two success because we just now invoked it for the second time. So basically, the idea is technically you understand that this is a capability, right? You can just to summarize, you can identify a manual activity which you would want to automate, make it create a business case in the evaluation stage in such a way that yes, it qualifies for your automation, RPA automation. And then once it goes to the approval of the evaluation phase, you can design it, and then you can build it using the RPA builder and also RPA recorder, and then you can test it using the test cases. You can look at the test results, you can deploy it onto the production. At the same time, you can also publish that particular process as an asset to exchange, and then consume that in your Mule application or API and invoke it. So end to end, this is the capability that your API, your your Mulesoft RPA process can be consumed as an API in Mulesoft platform,
One question
any
from
point
my side,
platform.
Siddhama. Let's say I'm not
Yeah,
exposing my RPA process into an asset that which will be published into an.
yeah.
I want to utilize this RPA process in my Mule project.
uh,
So like, can we have a directly exposed API or endpoint URL for this RP process, or how we are going to expose, how we are going to utilize this RP process in other ways in Mule project?
there are multiple different ways how you'd want to do it, because I give a very simple hello world example here. In your case, it might be simply a batch process. You don't even want it to be invoked as a API. You just want it to run like after every 1 hour, okay, and move copy some file content from one location to the other, or which is like, in a very smart way. You can also integrate it with AI. There are a lot of, the sky is the limit. There are so many things that you can do, so don't restrict yourself to saying that yes, I just do a API and then just invoke it. There are multiple ways of how you can
Yeah, but how to
implement it.
invoke from my Mule project, from my Mule flow? That's the way you have used this as a connector, right? And invoke that.
Yeah, I have used it as a connector. This is one of the way of how you can do it. This is how I'm consuming it right now, and that is the capability that we have. To be honest, I can explore and let you know, but I assume that this is the feature that we have right now.
Okay, this is the
But
only.
in this here, I've created a API. If you want in Mule, you can create anything. You can create
I
a
mean, the
file or
only the
something.
best option is to expose that as a connector and utilize that in the Mule flow directly, right? For
Yes,
MuleSoft
exactly.
as of now. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's it from my side. I think this
So
is what I wanted to explain.
one quick
I
question from
Yeah.
Joji. So Joji is asking, where is that RPA board getting used in this process? So she's asking that question.
So when you're deploying this RPA process, okay, so when you do go into the deployment phase, right? So from your, I wish I could show you that step by step. That would have been great. Due to some access restrictions and other things, I'm not able to move it from the evaluation stage to the next one. Not very sure what has changed, but anyway, not here. Just a second. Yeah. So your question was regarding design, right? Sandeep,
No,
if you could repeat
where
it.
is that RPA board getting used in this process? The process what you created.
Yes, when you're deploying it, right? During your deployment stage, after you have tested it, after you've tested it, when you're testing your RPA, you need to deploy it to the RPA bot. Okay, once you've created the BPMN, you'll actually do a testing. So to do that, you'll have to put it onto a RPA bot. So RPA bot is something that you can create an instance, and if they're already existing, you can use them in your this thing. So basically, your process will go and get deployed onto that RPA bot. Yeah.
Okay, I hope that answered the question.
But I'll sincerely encourage you folks, please go to the training, the self-paced training. It is very, very helpful.
Yes,
Those of you who are not aware of it, it's a 2-day training. It's self-paced, and just get your access to RPA manager and try and do your hands-on. I think that'll kind of give you a better picture of doing this end-to-end. Yeah.
and one more question. So, same Joji is asking, is RPA recorder effective one? As I see, we have to manually build the steps in the builder as the recorder doesn't run as expected. So, were you able to try app automation tools from a toolbox? It's not performing as expected. So, she's asking an input on that.
Maybe we can take that offline, Georgie. If you're really specifically facing issues with your recorder, we can give it a try. I'm not exactly sure what issues you're facing, but yes, with RPA recorder, you should be able to record the steps. So this is your RPA recorder. Now, if I just launch it, okay, I just do a start. I can just do a start of this. You can see it. It just started recording. Okay, and then I can give a activity name. Say I'll say activity one or something like that. I'll say add. Okay, and then I'll start the recording. The recording has started, and then like for example, it has started. Now I'll open a browser here. I'll Google out something. Okay, I'll say Kochi
But what she's saying,
or
we'll be
something
able
like that.
to record it, but it doesn't run. That's what she's telling.
No, it will run. It will run. It should be able to run, and you should be able to add. There's an option to add the activity as well. So you should be able to add the activity and record it. I don't see an issue. If you're facing issues, just let me know. And I would highly encourage, if you are already having access, have you also tried the training material and you tried the hands-on, you're not able, and it doesn't work for you?
Yeah, she's saying yes.
It's not working. Okay, then maybe we can connect offline and see why
No,
that
that
is
works,
happening.
she's saying.
It's working? It is.
Yeah.
Ah, then that's great, right? If you're still facing some issues, please do let me know. I'll try and find time, and probably you can share the VPN with me, and maybe we can collaborate. Yeah, we
We
can
can
do that.
connect and discuss this issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. I think this is what I wanted to explain, Sandeep. Any other questions we have?
Yeah, I think we have addressed all the questions, I believe. So I think we can go to the next session. So is that do you have any questions, Sumit?
No, no, I think Sandeep, we can kick off the trivia. Thank you, everyone, for making it interactive. We love the session. Thanks, Sudama. But this is not the end. I think we are going with trivia, and it's the best chance for you all to avail the training vouchers. So, yeah, I think we can start, Sandeep.
Just before we go ahead, I'm sure there are a lot of questions, and I'm sure people are very enthusiastic. They want to know more about RPA. I would sincerely encourage them to go through the self-paced training and also get access to RPA Manager through your org admin and try some hands-on. And if you still have, I'm sure you will have a lot of questions of how you would want to leverage it. With the Mule RPA, sky is the limit. There are a lot of things that you can actually do. There might be few limitations here and there, but we would want to discuss them more. Definitely we can have more sessions on that, but this session is more to give you um, a very basic overview of what are the capabilities that it has, right? So start from here, and I think we'll have a better journey through RPA and understand it more and leverage it for our customers. Okay. I think, Sandeep, we can start with the trivia quiz if it's okay.
Yeah, one second.
I think we should guide them first. I think so. Sandeep is gonna post a first question, okay, and then with the options as well. So whoever maybe you have to post your answers in the chat window only. So we will be picking the first right answer, and whoever is winning the first one, I think might not can participate in the other questions because we're giving everyone a fair chance. So yeah, so just be attentive on the general section only. We are going to expose in the general section only, general chat window. Yeah, over to you, Sandeep.
So okay, so I'll be just putting the question in the general chat. Okay, so then you can just make a note of the email address and all. So as usual we do.
Yes, yes, I will.
Okay, sure. Okay, so this is the first question here. So
You can probably, Sandeep, you can project the PPT itself, right? It has the questions. It's much more easier for them to see it.
yeah, I can do that. So I've already put the question in chat. So probably this is the question. So what are the main components of Mule RPA? So the answer RPA Manager, RPA Builder, RPA Recorder. Second option RPA Boat and RPA Process, and the third one is RPA Builder only. So do we have some answers?
Yeah, we have. So I guess the right answer is option A, right? So
Amma can confirm.
Nawaz Sarif has given the first. I mean, he's the first one giving the right answer.
Okay, so
So
probably this Nawaz can put the email address in the chat.
yeah,
So
Nawaz, please put your email address in the chat window so we can uh, give the voucher over email to you. We'll provide you through email. Just provide your email address here. Yeah, I got that. Thank you.
yeah, thanks. So we'll go for the next question now. So the second question is Mule RPA process can be published to any point exchange as a REST API set. Is the statement true or false? Yep. Do we have all the answers?
Yeah, a lot of answers actually. Rakesh Reddy, I guess.
Rakesh Reddy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Rakesh, can you provide the email address?
Rakesh, could you please provide your email address so that we can circulate vouchers to you on time? Okay, I got that. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going ahead with the third question now.
Sure.
So this is the third question. Which are the stages in RP life cycle? Evaluate, design, build, test, deploy, monitor, or the second option or the third option? So I think these are simple questions. I think we put nothing complicated here. Do you have some answers?
I
Let's
think
see.
yeah, we have answers. I think Joji Varghese has answered it correctly. She's the fastest. She's the fastest one, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Good.
Joji, could you
Yeah,
please provide your email address?
Yeah, so basically the intent is to keep the questions very basic so that the idea is just to check the basic idea of basic understanding of RPA. We don't want to ask them high-end questions, complicated ones. And most importantly, people have taken the trouble to join this session on a Saturday, which is really, I would want to appreciate. So I think, we would want to keep things simple and we don't want to make them more complicated.
Okay, that's good. So anyway,
Yeah.
thanks everyone for joining. So appreciate it. Like Siddharma mentioned, being a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. I know personal commitments will be there, but thanks for joining. That was a very good session. I believe a lot of interaction happened, and thanks Siddharma once again for all your efforts. Appreciate it. Okay,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
thank you, Emma. It was a very lovely and interactive session. I think people loved it. I think we can see how interactive and
I could have done it in a much better way. Probably I was keen to do the timesheet use case itself, and I'm sure people would have really loved it more. But due to time constraints and our own work, it was a little bit of a constrained session. But I would love to do one more session maybe on RPA sometime later, and we'll pick up a very nice use case.
we'll plan.
Please, yeah, and please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any ideas you want me to do some hands-on on RPA. I'd be more than happy to do them, and maybe we'll have a follow-up session where we'll only do only the use case and not the basics of RPA. The intent was just to address the basics and the technical capabilities right now, but I'm sure we can do much more.
Yeah, and Nawaz, to answer your question, you will be notified by emails. You know about all the voucher details and all, so you will get an intimation.
yeah, and we are going to wrap up the event with all the meeting recording and plus the PPTs and all in within 24 hours. So just visit our Kochi Mulesoft Meetup page and for the Mulesoft Meetup 13th, view the event details there. And please provide us the feedback, which will be shoot immediately once we'll end the session in 2 minutes. So please help us to help you in our upcoming sessions for your better experience and making more interactive sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Thanks
Samaya.
all. Thanks, Sandeep. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. And for giving me this opportunity to be a speaker on this session.
always, always.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
Well,
our pleasure. Thank you. Have a
thanks.
great weekend. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.